How LEO broadband works. Low Earth orbit, LEO, satellite broadband works by using a constellation of satellites that orbit the Earth at a much lower altitude than traditional geostationary satellites. These satellites orbit at an altitude of around 1,200 kilometers, which is much lower than traditional geostationary satellites that orbit at around 36,000 kilometers. This closer proximity to the Earth allows for lower latency and faster internet speeds. The LEO satellite constellation is made up of multiple satellites that orbit at different altitudes and inclinations to provide global coverage. Each satellite is equipped with a transceiver that can transmit and receive data to and from users on the ground. The satellites use advanced modulation techniques such as multiple input multiple output, MIMO, to increase the capacity of the signal and reduce the impact of atmospheric effects on the signal. On the ground, there are a number of facilities called ground stations that are responsible for communicating with the satellites and routing data to and from users. These ground stations can be located on the ground or on aircrafts, ships, or vehicles. They are equipped with antennas that can communicate with the satellites and a gateway that connects the ground station to the internet. Users on the ground access the LEO satellite broadband network using an antenna that can communicate with the satellites. These antennas can be installed on homes, businesses, or vehicles and are typically small and easy to install. The antenna communicates with the nearest satellite, which then routes the data to the nearest ground station. The ground station then routes the data to the internet through the gateway. The key components of a LEO satellite broadband network include satellites. These are the main component of LEO broadband network. They are responsible for transmitting and receiving data to and from users on the ground. They orbit at an altitude of around 1,200 kilometers and use advanced modulation techniques such as multiple input multiple output, MIMO, to increase the capacity of the signal and reduce the impact of atmospheric effects on the signal. Ground stations. These are facilities on the ground that are responsible for communicating with the satellites and routing data to and from users. They can be located on the ground or on aircrafts, ships or vehicles. They are equipped with antennas that can communicate with the satellites and a gateway that connects the ground station to the internet. Gateways. These are the connection points between the ground stations and the internet. They are responsible for routing data to and from the satellites and the ground stations. Antennas. These are the devices that users on the ground use to communicate with the satellites. They can be installed on homes, businesses, or vehicles. They are typically small and easy to install. Network management systems. These are the systems that are responsible for managing and monitoring the network, including routing data, allocating bandwidth, and managing security. There are several companies currently working on or offering LEO satellite broadband services. Some of the top providers in the field include SpaceX, the company founded by Elon Musk. SpaceX is developing a satellite broadband service called Starlink that uses a constellation of LEO satellites to provide internet access. The service is currently in beta testing and is available in select areas of the United States, Canada, and Europe. OneWeb. OneWeb is a global communications company that is building a constellation of LEO satellites to provide internet access. The company has raised over $3 billion in funding and plans to launch its first satellites in 2021. Amazon. Amazon is developing a LEO satellite broadband service called Project Kuiper. The company plans to launch more than 3,000 satellites into LEO to provide internet access to unserved and underserved communities around the world. Telesat. Telesat is a Canadian company that is developing a LEO satellite broadband service. The company plans to launch a constellation of LEO satellites to provide internet access in remote and underserved areas. Airbus. Airbus is also working on LEO satellite broadband. It plans to launch a constellation of LEO satellites to provide internet access in remote and underserved areas through its subsidiary Airbus Defence and Space. LeoSat. LeoSat is a communication company that plans to launch a constellation of LEO satellites to provide high-speed, low-latency internet access to businesses. These companies are among the top LEO satellite broadband providers and have been investing heavily in developing this technology and securing contracts with customers. However, as the field is very dynamic and new players are emerging, it is always important to check for new developments.